Hey guys, it's Evan here, the resident game master of Chaotic Cast TV. This is a series that we are starting brand new with this video, and basically we're going to go over the beginner principles and all things to get started in D&D. And today we're starting square one, and that is creating your character. D&D allows us the ability to project ourselves into the fantastical world in whatever way we want to present. If you want to be in the game and you want your character to be you, be you. If you always want to be a sneaky, homeless assassin who only steals and kills to help the needy, be that. If you want to be a prince that was banished from his kingdom for pissing off his dad, be that. I mean, the options are unlimited. Be whatever you want to be, because that's what this game was designed for. To get you outside of your box, or to be something that you physically can't, or just whatever. I mean, it's up to you, and be what you want to be. But after you have decided what it is that you want to play and how you want to play them, the next step will be to consult with your DM about any special rules and then fill out your character sheet. One of the special rules that I do is I like to be there, present, when my players roll stats. It's not that I don't trust them. It's not that anything of that nature. I just think it's fun. It's like you're seeing this character actually be put together and seeing the player have to figure out, okay, I still have intelligence and charisma. Is my character studying in books and learning principles of the worlds and trying to figure out concepts and physics and all these different things? Or is he smooth-tongued and he spends most of his time at the tavern or brothel trying to, win an extra tankard of beer, or the love of his life that has worked at the brothel and he's trying to win her only for himself or herself? Never know. Just seeing those characters, I think it's a part of character creation that's cool to see, and see how all these characters are put together. But I will preface this because when I first started D&D just a few years ago, at the beginning the character sheet was kind of overwhelming, and I was like, holy smokes, because this was all brand new to me. I was like, there's so many different things to fill out and touch on, and we're going to look at those as we go. But if I could recommend anything, I'm going to throw some praise at D&D Beyond to use their character creation kind of program that they have on there. It's free. If you make an account, then you get 5 characters that you can make, and without a subscription or something like that. So it'll walk you through, and it'll make sure that you cover all your bases. That way you can ensure you don't miss anything when you're starting. But if you insist on having yours in hand, which a lot of players do, and nothing against that, I think it's cool. That's the old school way to do it. It's here, as you're playing, you're filling out your stuff, you're erasing things, you're changing things. It's right there in front of you. If that's what you like to do, do it. The D&D Beyond version, virtual version, is really well laid out. So on the first page of your character sheet, at the top, you have your character name, you have class and level, background, player name, race, alignment, and experience points. Character name, obviously, is a must-have. Class and level will depend on what you are playing, will be your class, and then your DM will determine the level that your campaign or your series or one-shot or game or whatever you're playing, it'll determine what level you start at. Background, if you look in the player's handbook, and I think there's some other books out there that have added more backgrounds to it and options, so there's all sorts of things to research and find for your character that makes sense for him and how you wanted him to be played. That may determine the background that he has. Load that in there. That way you got it up there at the top as a reference, because that will change some things possibly down in the character sheet. So definitely fill that out. Now your player name, who is this character's soul and conscience. Race, which will be determined depending on who you want to play. Alignment will be determined how you want to play. Me personally, with my guys, I don't use alignment, and that's just something that we took out of our games because I want the players to play their characters as they see fit in that moment. I don't want them to be bound by an alignment set out there that would skew the way their character may react to the situation just because they are aligned to play that way. That's just me personally. Some DMs use alignment and they require their players to abide by that, and that's perfectly fine. But just not for me. And then experience points. Experience points, your DM should tell you as you go how many experience points you have. There's charts in the Dungeon Master's Guide and maybe the Player's Handbook. I feel like that there's one somewhere else. Anyway, if you are doing an experience points based leveling campaign, you will want to keep track of that so you know when the next levels are coming up. Your DM should tell you all that stuff though. Yeah, this is the experience points thing. That's something that players, in my opinion, shouldn't have to worry about as much because the DM's the one creating the encounters and getting everything situated. I prefer milestone leveling just because I can, as I'm crafting the campaign or looking at a pre-made campaign that kind of tells you when you level up and stuff. It's normally after the party completes an objective or completes some quest or a certain part of the story is reached, whatever. That's easiest, so that's how I recommend to do it. Okay, now this bottom section of the character sheet, this is the bulk of it, and this is where you're going to have to use some math. We're going to have to figure out a lot of different things at this moment. But the first thing that you need to do is what I was touched on earlier about rolling your stats. I think it's a part of character creation to just see what your players are going to decide and where they're going to put their points. There's all sorts of different ways to do that. You can use like a manual roll where you roll 4d6 and take away the lowest until you fill out all stats. We have a homebrew rule in our game that it has to be over 70, so no one is just completely terrible right out the gates. There's all sorts of various things that you can do. I know Nerd Immersion, Ted, he has a lot of videos about getting your stats rolled. You can check out that stuff over there at Nerd Immersion on YouTube. And I'm sure that there's various others out there that talk about it. So anyway, once you have your 6 stats rolled, over here on the left side, you have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I would go ahead and fill those out the way that you want to. Keep in mind, especially now since Tasha's is out and some different things, you get your class and racial bonuses that you need to add into your scores here because that'll ultimately determine your modifier. And you can't have anything over 20 unless it's helped out by a magic item or a boon or blessing from a god or goddess or entity, whatever. So generally at the beginning, you're not going to have anything over 20. There's a chance you could have 20, which is really good. Good job on your rolling and getting going with this. But you will take the total number that's there, minus 10, divide by 2, round down. And that will determine your modifier. And basically what that does is every 2 points over 10, you're going to get another +1 to your modifier. And that'll come into when you roll if your DM says, hey, please make me a dexterity check. You will roll your d20, add your dexterity modifier. I rolled a 24 because you are an excellent rogue who has 20 in dexterity and you rolled a 19. Whatever. There's all kinds of different checks and things that your DM may ask that will only apply that modifier over there. But the reason why I say fill out that first is because those scores are going to echo across this character sheet. And I will tell you why. So when we look at the next column, I'm not going to go down, I'm just going to go strictly to the right. And the top little box is called Inspiration. Inspiration is given by DMs. Some DMs use it, some do not. I use it if it's something super uber cool that I didn't think of, or an idea that just, I try to prepare for all ideas, and it was just something that totally slipped my mind. And like the DM got God, like, oh, I got God, and I'm the God of this world, and I got God. So sometimes I'm like, you know what, you're gonna have inspiration on that, because that's pretty cool. Most of the time, I try not to mess with that too much because I just want the single dice roll to determine the game. But anyway, basically with inspiration, you'll just mark whether you have it or not. And it'll give you advantage on, or depending on what your DM decides. The way we use inspiration at Chaotic Cast is basically you just get to roll another d20 on whatever sort of check, attack. Just anytime you roll a d20, you can use your inspiration to reroll. Basically is what we do. Alright, below it is another box called Proficiency Bonus. And your proficiency bonus is determined by your level. You'll start out with a +2, and as you grow levels, I think 5, it turns into +3, and don't quote me on that. Eventually, you get up to like a +5 proficiency bonus, and proficiency bonus is important, especially for these next 2 blocks. So that'll be a static score that stays until you reach a certain level, and then it'll go up to +3, and then +4, and then +5 as your character grows. If he doesn't die. Anyway. Saving throws. Classes, races, multiple different things, including magic items, feats, all kinds of things can play into this. And basically, you will be proficient in certain saving throws. So, what that means is, over here on your saving throws box, you will copy the modifier from the left column of Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. You will copy that modifier number over here into the saving throws box. Now, depending on what saving throws that you are proficient in, instead of just that modifier alone on those certain ones, you get to add your proficiency bonus to it. So, like we were saying before, if you have a +4 modifier in dexterity, but you're also proficient in dexterity saving throws, at the beginning, instead of it just being +4 to your dexterity saving throws roll, you will bubble in where the dexterity is, and you will get a +6 instead, because you are proficient in dodging all things that could potentially hurt yourself. It's kind of how saving throws work, and you'll do that for whatever you're proficient in. The ones that you aren't, it's just the straight up modifier from that left column. And pretty much that's it for the saving throws box. And that'll determine when the DM may ask you, I need you to make me a Constitution saving throw. If you're not proficient in it and you only have a 14, you're only going to get a +2 to your roll. If you roll 2, +2, 4, chances are you failed. It works in that pattern. Below it though is a similar box called skills. And skills are in D&D kind of like the check aspect. When a DM is trying to break down a situation or an action or something that's occurring, there may be a series of checks, a single check that will determine the outcome of this encounter or this situation or problem or conversation. All sorts of things are determined by checks. Me, personally, I try to use checks as much as possible because that really opens up to what this character should do. I think in the Dungeon Master Guide or the Player's Handbook, it talks I'm not going to make a player roll a check to stand up out of this chair, because everyone, barring some kind of medical disability, would be able to stand up out of the chair. In that case, there's no need for a check. Now, if a character says, I want to try and swim as fast as I can out of the water with my speed of swimming and jump, land on top of the dock on my feet. Okay, so now we're getting into some superhuman kind of stuff, which I know it's a fantasy world, but that also gives us reason to have these checks to use to see what is possible. In that instance, I would use like athletics and maybe a dexterity saving throw or a dexterity check. Athletics to see if the character can jut out of the water, and then the dexterity saving throw or check to see if they can actually land on their feet. That's how those would intertwine and be used. But it's the same pattern as saving throws. You'll bubble in the ones you're proficient in. You will copy over from the left-hand column of your base stats with the modifier, and then whatever you're proficient in, you'll add the +2 to it. So, for instance, we're kind of going with a roguish ranger kind of character, so chances are we're going to be stealthy, we're probably going to have sleight of hand, we're proficient in, so instead of it being a +4 at the beginning, we'll get to add our proficiency bonus, which will turn it into a +6. So, the saving throws box, along with the skills box, work similar based off of the stats that you've chosen for strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Just below that, there's a little box. It says passive wisdom perception. Passive wisdom perception will be determined from your wisdom score plus your perception modifier. And basically what that is if you aren't necessarily looking for something, but you are in the area and the DM says, oh, well, they have a keen eye, so they're going to catch this piece. Even though you weren't specifically looking for that piece, you were in the area maybe potentially looking for something else, but because your passive perception was so high, you can see that. And now I think some DMs, I know we've evolved into passive investigation and passive insight. So, and they, like same thing, perception's kind of looking, investigation is actually hands-on, digging through stuff, looking, searching, sort of, instead of looking. And then insight is, wait a minute, are you being a funny liar to me? But anyway, that's kind of where those passive checks come from. The box below that is called Other Proficiencies and Languages. So, still on our proficiencies kind of tangent here. Proficiencies, what this box is meaning for is maybe you know how to drive land vehicles or sea vehicles, or maybe you have proficiency in thieves tools. Since we are a rogue ranger kind of thing, we are successful in using thieves tools to unlock different things. So we get to, when we use it, we don't just have to use our dexterity modifier, but we also get to use our proficiency bonus added on if we ever have to make a thieves tool check. It's kind of how that is. And then languages would just be any languages that your character can use, and your race and class and background race, class, and background will determine, possibly feats, I think, will determine what languages you can know. You just want to record those down there because in your game you may find a document and your DM will say, does anyone speak Draconic? And if no one does but you do, you would be the only one to read it. You can get that information, keep it to yourself, or tell your friends. It's up to you. Cool to track that. Alright, so that is the entire first kind of column filled out. So let's go to the middle column. And at the top of the middle column, there's 3 separate boxes. We have armor class, initiative, and speed. So, speed will be determined by your race. It'll tell you out there what your base speed is. Some class or races have flying speeds, you want to record that there, and some have swimming speeds, you want to record that there. Some of you just have all your speeds, how fast you can go on a turn, whether it's combat or it's out of combat, you're chasing something down, you're running away, or you're trying to navigate a battlefield to get to a certain location that is more advantageous to you. Regardless, you want to record your speed there. I think generally most things are 30 feet. Some races vary, and then there's other things that can boost speed, whether it's feats or certain classes like the monk. Just different things can affect it. Just need to look at your class and race and background and feature combinations to see what your speed should be. Initiative. Initiative is used for when you are beginning combat. You've heard the common phrase, roll initiative, from DMs, and that is just to begin the launch into a combat scenario to where fighting and you're going to get to do all the cool stuff that a lot of people D&D love, which is combat. And basically you will determine your initiative from your dexterity modifier. You'll just, whatever your modifier is for dexterity, you'll slide it over there in your initiative. And so when you roll your d20 to determine what position in the order you're going, you will add that to it on your d20. Armor class. So I'm not going to go deep into armor class because it can get kind of in the weeds, so to speak. But generally, your armor class is determined by the armor your character is wearing. Plus, sometimes it will be your dexterity modifier. I think that there's something out there where monks use wisdom and dexterity to determine their armor class. Barbarians have something different, maybe with constitution and strength. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a long time since I played those characters. Anyway, armor class will be determined by your race and class, or probably more, it's going to be determined by your class and by your equipment will determine what your armor class is. And your armor class is, when you are attacked, how hard are you to hit? So a monk may not be wearing any armor, but they're so dexterous that their armor class is 19. Because their base is 10, and then they have a 5 in dexterity and a 4 in wisdom. And so their body is able to move and dodge in a certain way, and then their wisdom of understanding the situation allows them to be even smarter about body placement, and the arrow strikes the rocks behind, misses. Or they just, as the arrows come by, they are able to palm the side of the wooden shaft and push it away, which would be a super cool way for them to describe it if they so choose. But anyway, yeah, look at your class and look at your equipment to determine your armor class, and it can be affected by various things, magical items, features, and things like that. So, hit points is the next box down below. Current hit points, we roll our hit points, and basically per level that you have in whatever classes that you're using will determine how many hit dice you have in that class. So every time my players level up, they roll one of those dice. Whether it is their single class or if they're multi-classing, they roll whichever dice that they took a level in. We do not keep ones, we re-roll ones. And the way to determine your hit points, say you start out level 3 as a ranger who has a D10 hit dice. So you will roll 3 D10s, and say you have a +2 in your constitution. So you roll a 7, a 5, and a 3. So you got 15 points. You have a +2 in Constitution, 2, 4, 6. So it would be your hit point maximum will be 21, and then your current hit points will be 21 unless you've sustained any sort of damage. Kind of how that works there. Those will go up as you progress your character. Next level, you will roll another D10. You will add that plus your Constitution modifier to your hit point maximum. That's kind of how you gain health as your character does. Temporary hit points, certain abilities, spells, features, traits, all kinds of different things. All kinds of different things in the game can grant you temporary hit points. Your other players or your DM will let you know when that happens. And you'll just mark it down there. Temporary hit points have to be used first before your regular hit points, I do believe. And then once they're gone, they're gone. Temporary hit points do not stack. So if you have some and then somebody else tries to give you more, you can't just add on to it. You have to keep what you have or choose the new. I think that's something that's often overlooked, but that is how it works. There's 2 boxes down below it, and both of these boxes are important. The left side is hit dice, and that's what we're talking about. So you have 1 hit dice per level. So if we have a level 4 ranger at this time, we have 4 hit dice, which are all D10. So anytime we take a short rest, whether we're in a huge, massive dungeon crawl, or we have just got our butts handed to us in some sort of fight, we just need to take an hour to rest, recuperate, and roll some hit dice to try to get some of your hit points back, your health back. And that is the box to keep track of how many you have. The box to its right is the death saves box. So when your character is knocked unconscious or gets down to 0 hit points by whatever fashion, and you have to make death saving throws, that is just a roll of a d20. And depending on if you are 10 or above or 9 or less will determine whether you have a success and a chance to come back, or a failure which progresses you more into non-existing anymore. The soul of the body perish. This part of D&D, that's cool. It tries to keep a realness factor to it and adds in an element of just awesomeness to that your character can die and there is no respawn. But legends are stories about people in the past who have gone. So, it's got its place and time for everything in D&D, and death is a huge piece of it. Alright, so anyway, attacks and spellcasting. Down below this next box, this will be where you fill out your major pieces to what you can do in combat. And let's say with our ranger, we have a longbow. So we'll write in the name part longbow. And we are proficient with longbows because of our class of being a ranger. So we'll also get to add our proficiency bonus. But then within the weapon itself, it will tell you what you use to hit. A longbow's dexterity. So we have a +5 in dexterity. Our proficiency bonus is +2. And let's say our fighting style we took was archery. So our attack bonus for the ranger would be +5 for dexterity, +2 for proficiency, so now we're up to +7, and +1 for taking the combat style of archery. So we have a +8. Alright, so that attack bonus, what that means is when you roll a d20 to attack a creature and try to hit it, you will roll your d20, you will add +8 to it, and then ask your DM, I rolled a 24. And your DM, chances are, will say it hits. So now we go to the damage type. Damage type is determined within the weapon itself, plus a modifier. So for a longbow, I don't know, let's say it's 1d10. 1d8, I believe is what it is. So 1d8 plus our 5 dexterity, because that's the added damage that we get to put onto it. So 1d8 plus 5, we roll max, we're going to deal 13 damage to this creature that we're attacking. There's all sorts of things that can boost that, bolster it, reduce it, depending on what it is. Also, you want to keep in mind what the damage type is. So with a longbow shooting an arrow, it would be piercing damage. Because it may affect how the monster reacts to it, whether it's vulnerable to it in some form or fashion, or maybe it's resistant to it. It didn't really hurt it as much. So, because like if you shoot a bowl of Jello versus a metal wall, the things are going to react different. But anyway, that's where you track that stuff. Spell casting wise, you can put your spells there, but you don't necessarily have to. And I'll tell you why, because there's the next sheet, we will get into more spell casting that makes a little bit more sense. But anyway. So the box below it is straight equipment. Put in there all the things that you have, and then on the left side, those little boxes are to keep track of your amount of money that you have acquired. And then finally, to the third column, we have personality traits at the top. This is all just character building stuff, maybe just little reminders of how you want to play your character, or things that have happened to them. So, personality, ideals, how do they think and believe, bonds, are they loyal to something, or does something just really eat at their soul that they have this bond with? And then flaws, what do they stink at? What are their issues? Are they easily angered? Are they afraid of zombies? Has something happened to them that has really terrified them? There's all kinds of options to fill out there as well. Features and traits. Features and traits will come from your race, your class, your background. There's all sorts of things here. And then for anything that you pick up throughout the game as you level, if you take features, you could be adding something else here. But a lot of times you're going to have like dark vision. If you're an elf, you sleep in a trance. Maybe you have advantage on magical effects if someone tries to charm you. All of that sort of stuff you want to fill out here, and you'll get all of that from your race and class and background stuff, or as you level and you take features. All right, moving on to the next page. It's got at the top, it's got the same header before. You can fill it out if you wish. For your character name, I guess on this one, it is a little different. If your DM cares about age, height, weight, and then the color of your eyes, your skin, and your hair, you will want to fill those out. Your DM should let you know if that stuff is really important. I can see where weight and height could potentially be, but most of the time we just use the standard small, medium, large, huge kind of scale to determine whether a creature can fit in or on or be held up by something. So it's up to you and your DM. This is one of those things just to ask if it needs to be filled out. Character appearance, you have like a little box where you can draw a portrait, or you can just fill it out what they look like. It's up to you. Allies and organizations, maybe somewhere in your backstory you were secretly loyal to a king, but you were out on a spy mission and no one knows that. And maybe the rest of your party hates the king. So you want to take a little note that you are allied with that king, but maybe you don't want to voice it. Just to kind of keep all your stuff together. Then another one is additional features and traits. If you max out the front page of that, you got extra room here to add. Treasure. Some people will keep things on their character sheet maybe they don't want on their front page of their character sheet in the equipment box, or stuff that doesn't need to be in the equipment box. games. This is stuff that I'm not going to deal with until I get to a merchant, and then I might sell or trade or something of that matter. This isn't something that really is going to affect the game on a massive scale unless I'm trying to bargain, sell, or something of that nature. And then character backstory. Character backstories are important, and that's something where you have to work with your DM, because your DM can make the campaign really cool and immersive if you spend time developing an awesome backstory. And there can be quests and things that happen in the world that all pertain to the backstory. You don't need a full novel for this, but I think you would want enough to really be able to see your character develop and grow, and maybe clear up something in his backstory. It just makes for a good story, and honestly, that's why we play. And then the third page. This page is important for all my spellcasters. So cantrips, there's a cantrip video out there if you want to check it out. I've listed my personal just favorite top. It's not like top 5 min-maxing the best of the best abilities, and the reason why I chose this cantrip is because it has the highest average damage every time it is used. Blah, blah. No, it's just because I like it. I think it's fun to use them, and it's fun to roleplay with them. Cantrips you can list here. Keep in mind when you choose a cantrip, that's the cantrip that you have, unless there's something that your DM decides or something within leveling up or the game or whatever that allows you to interchange them. Most are not. And then you just list your spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Keep in mind, if you are druids, clerics, you know all the spells in your tree. It's just what you want to prepare. So this will become more of a prepared sheet for you versus a wizard or a ranger or somebody who just has like an innate ability to cast these things. This will become like, this is what they know, versus the cleric and druid who know everything is just what did you prepare for that day. But the important piece to this is the very top. Spellcasting class, you want to list out what you are, druid or whatever, and then this next little section over here, these 3 blocks, if you are a spellcaster, these things really, really matter. Number 1, spellcasting ability. What do you use? Is it intelligence? Is it wisdom? Is it charisma? Depending on paladin, ranger, cleric, wizard, artificer, all kinds of different things use certain spellcasting abilities, and chances are when you were constructing your character, you will have realized this, and when you selected your stats, you will have picked the correct one. The next thing is spell save DC. So your spell save DC is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus whatever your modifier is for your spellcasting ability. So 8 plus 2 is 10 plus 4, because if we are a wizard and we have an 18 intelligence, we are proficient in spellcasting because we are a wizard. So our spell save DC will be 14 at the beginning, and this will grow as your points go up in your stats. If you get your intelligence up to 20, it would be a 15. And then if you are, let's say, level 13, you'll have a proficiency bonus of plus 4, I think, maybe. And so then it would, maybe it's still 3. Regardless, it'll go up even more. So that's kind of how that works. And your spell save DC is what, if you cast a spell that requires a dexterity saving throw, whatever creature you've targeted or is having to make that throw has to succeed against your spell save. Your spell save DC is virtually how that works. And then your spell attack bonus is the same way. If you are doing a ranged attack, you get to add your proficiency bonus and your spellcasting ability. All right, guys, and that's it. Character sheets can be kind of overwhelming at the beginning, but just break it down, take your time, fill them out, ask your DM for help, because if your DM is DMing game, he should know how to do a character sheet. Sorry, DMs, if you're out there, you're trying to start again. If you're a brand new DM, you should spend time learning how to fill out a character sheet, because that is basically what drives the game for your characters, and you should know. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you like what you see, please subscribe, hit the alert icon to get future videos that are coming out, and welcome to the chaos. See ya.
Huh?